So let's talk about the 25% tariff now on steel and aluminum. It had been set, of course, to be double that, but U.S. President Donald Trump backing down from that late yesterday afternoon. Now, to say the situation is uncertain is an understatement. To talk about the impact the roller coaster ride has had on at least one business here and on steel manufacturers in our province, Rick Koss is in studio with us. He is the longtime owner of Hunter Wire. They make a number of different products, but one of them is specialty steel wire products, and he exports about 30% of his products into the States. But he's here to talk about one specific case that could be concerning. Hi there, Rick.
Good morning.
So just before we get to the case in question with the contract in the States, what was your day like yesterday watching all this?
It was really unsettled, and we were unable to get information. I was on the phone several times with our customs brokers trying to find out what this actually applied to. Did it apply to everything? Was it across the board? Was it specific? As of yesterday at 1:30, our brokers had no idea what they were going to do, how they were supposed to apply the duties, how they were supposed to paper it. They had no instructions from anybody on the situation was supposed to go into effect in midnight. Of course, it was subsequently withdrawn, but as of mid-afternoon, they had no idea what to do with this.
I talked to actually two brokers last week and reached out to try to get some. We were going to do an interview, but they said what you're saying. They're not getting information either. So we actually haven't had a broker on the air yet because they're doing the same as everyone, trying to navigate all this. But they did say they're hearing from CEOs, vice presidents. I mean, they're hearing from heads of big companies here like yourself that are trying to navigate all of it. What's the stress like?
It's difficult. I mean, in some ways, we're a little insulated from it because our product is really necessary in this particular industry that we're serving, but it's creating an incredible stress for our customers because they, when you put in a bid to build an ice rink, you were talking about millions of dollars for sure. In the United States, a lot of it is private money or pledged from somebody if it's going into a university, for instance, or a school, and they have finite resources, and with the potential for dramatically increased costs on their projects. They really don't know they don't know who's going to pay for it, how it's going to happen. They're just they're walking on pins and needles. I have one customer that can hardly speak. He is so angry, about the situation. It's difficult to even have a conversation with him. Not that he's angry with us. He's just so angry with the situation.
So let's talk about your products, specialty steel products, and you've alluded to hockey arenas and rinks. So how do they work in there? And give us an example.
It's a product that supports the refrigeration pipe and the rebar when it goes into the floor. And that is if you watch curling, for instance, they control the ice temperatures to such a finite degree. That goes right down into the concrete and the refrigeration piping. It has to be exactly spaced and positioned so that the ice system works properly. So we supply that product to about 97-98% of every rink that's made in North America.
Are you the only Are you the only supplier?
Virtually.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what does this mean? I understand that one of your U.S. clients that builds rinks. Can you give us an example in dollar amounts? I guess what this looks like now.
Yeah. We just shipped a rink about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I was talking to the customer, and he was saying that on his particular portion of the job, and he only does the cement pad installation and some of the other parts of it, it would have increased the tariffs at that time, which were rolled back. But he said it was going to increase his cost by $200,000 just on his portion. And so if you multiply that through all of the things that go into the construction of a rink, it's an astounding amount of money that they haven't budgeted for. And the question is, where's that money going to come from?
So obviously this is people have to follow the ball here because not only are we watching moving numbers, but we're watching tariffs and then counter tariffs. And some of these products, you have raw steel and then you might manufacture, you might send something back. So for your business, what are your greatest concerns and where are the biggest points that you're watching?
The difficulty for us is number one, the uncertainty with our customers. They don't know how it's going to apply to them. So are they going to put orders on hold? We've been fortunate the last couple of years. Our business has grown quite substantially. So we've invested very heavily in new equipment. We have a building addition going on to supply or to facilitate the business growth. We're committed. And now if we see a significant recession, that of course affects us. Order cancellations is a significant thing. But for our customers as well, when you build an ice rink, you don't decide today and then build it tomorrow, like the president does. It's years in the planning in a lot of cases. And so when these people are committed. But what we saw in COVID, with the uncertainty, some of these projects were canceled for a year or a year and a half. They were just simply
Yeah.
put on hold. That creates, again, significant uncertainty.
Your expansion, have you considered putting it on hold?
No, at this point in time, we will see it through, but it could sure be painful depending on what happens going forward.
What's your option if the U.S. dries up as a market? I mean, I know I'm way ahead of myself here, but I mean, what options? We're having this conversation across Canada. Like, Canada can't make a go of it on our own with steel right now, and obviously because we haven't had to. We've had free trade, but what are the options? What do you when you think about other markets? What are you already thinking about?
Well, this is a really sole source kind of product, the one we're talking about. Fortunately, most of the construction happens in Canada, which is interesting. But it's such a snowball effect. I mean, what we're talking about hockey rinks for the NHL teams, all their practice rinks. We're talking about we've done every Olympic North American Olympic installation for like 60 years. So it's a huge ripple effect. If that market dries up, then we're talking about skating, curling, hockey, et cetera, just for this one product. So is that going to dry up? Who knows? But it's certainly going to slow down construction without a doubt. People will rethink the projects.
Trump obviously is peddling that we become the 51st state and has said that one way to avoid tariffs is to move businesses to the states. But at the end of the day, no matter how patriotic you are, you're also making a living. And I wonder whether or not that's something that is also that you've had to think about.
We looked at it a number of years ago. For better or for worse, I was born in the United States, so I have dual citizenship. I could move to the United States and operate a business there, and there was a time when South Dakota was actively recruiting businesses in Canada to come move down there. So we looked at it, but logistically, it just didn't make any sense for us. And in the steel industry, Canadian steel mills are as competitive or more competitive than any other steel producers in the world. So we import zero U.S. steel. It all comes from Canada because they're just more efficient and more competitive. So it just didn't make sense for us to move south of the border.
Do you think we're going to see some businesses that are going to have to consider that?
I think not yet because of the uncertainty and the volatility in President Trump's decision making. I mean, nobody knows this afternoon what he's going to decide, never mind what he's going to do next week or next month. So I think people are just going to continue to kind of walk on pins and needles waiting to see how this situation unfolds. There will be some that will be forced into it, but I think they'll have to hold their noses and do it. There's been, this time around, there is so much animosity, Canada versus the United States, because of what's happening here and the talk about annexation and, the insults of Governor Trudeau and the rest of the things that are coming out of Washington. There's a lot of people that will simply say, no, I'm not going to do it. We'll figure out a way around it, but we are not going to.
Just last, what do you need as a business owner, and what's the buzz in the Manitoba business community, from your perspective at least, around what might be wanted or needed from governments here, from our provincial government and from the feds at this time?
Well, I'm really impressed with the response, in particular from Doug Ford. I'm sorry that so many of the premiers have let Doug Ford do the heavy lifting in this, because it was his response that really got Washington's attention.
Yesterday with the 50, no, not 50, it's going to be 25 for steel.
Significant response to Ontario's response to the tariffs. I would sure like to see something stronger from the other premiers. There's been some discussion. I mean, EB and Canoe have talked about we can't tolerate this and we can't put up, but they haven't put anything on the table yet.
I think there's a proposal that Canoe has putting forward. He said they will consider not giving U.S. contracts when it comes to hydro developments.
Right, but all of that is just consideration. There's been nothing put on the table. We're still talking about it. I would like to see something significant and something put forward and said, this is what we're going to do.
Rick, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We'll talk to you again.
Sure.
That is Rick Koss, owner and CEO of Hunter Wire here in Winnipeg.